All right. Welcome into the A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. I am Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. Wherever you listen throughout the world, we thank you very much for listening to us. We talk everything balls every week here on the Big Orange podcast. If you want to listen to that on the regular, go over to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed on Apple or Spotify. When you get there, rate, review, but most importantly, you got to subscribe because if you do subscribe, you won't miss our shows when we drop them on Mondays. And speaking of Mondays, it is one right now at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And that means we're live on YouTube. Go over to the A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers YouTube channel. Subscribe there. But the most important thing is that notification bell. If you hit that, you'll be notified when we go live. So then it doesn't matter when we go live. You'll be in on it because you'll get the notification right to your phone. And you can come hang out with us. This is the best part of the show is going back and forth with everybody. It's always a great time. So come be a part of that. At Charlie_Burris, at TNT, at A to Z Sports, Facebook.com/A to Z Sports Nashville, and A to Z Sports.com for everything that Zach writes on the internet. Oh boy, Zach. It is Florida week finally. A lot of people were complaining that, it's just going to be 2 weeks of absolutely nothing. And then before we finally get to Florida, and my thought was like, do I even want to get to Florida week? Is this something we really want to do to set the tone for this show? Now, I'll start out. What's up, Zach? How you doing?
Yeah, it's Florida week, isn't it? It feels like we're beaten and battered and we finally got here, and I don't know if any of us really want to be here, like you said, but it's here. It's a weird vibe with it being in November. We've only had this a
Super
couple of
weird.
times, obviously 2001 with 9/11 when they played in early December, and then in 2020, the COVID year, they played in December, I believe. I can't remember now. That whole season's such a blur. I know there were some games that were like postponed and played later on in the season, and there was some weeks where Tennessee didn't play, but I think they played in December in 2020. But yeah, it's odd when you're used to having this game in September, uh, and now with the playoff not really on the line, it's still an important game, and I still feel just as uneasy as I would even if a trip to the playoff was on the line. But I do wonder if that was the scenario, if that field goal had gone in against Georgia and you were 8-2 right now,
Oh my gosh.
what kind of anxiety would we all be feeling right now going into this game?
It would be the same dread, except it would be dread that could end in something great in the playoff. But now it's just dread of, we're really going to do this again, aren't we? It's kind of how it feels.
There's
I
some
don't
good
know.
news. This is the last trip to the swamp until 2029, so we get a brief reprieve,
Oh,
but that also kind of makes you want to win this game even more, in my opinion.
yeah, there's a lot to it, and obviously that's going to be the main part of the show tonight. Big Orange podcast is basically going to be all Florida because basketball hasn't really started up. The really good basketball games aren't going to start until after our next episode next week during Thanksgiving week. So we'll save that for that week. And so it's basically just going to be all about this Florida game and everything that's happening around the football team at the moment. Now, to be a little optimistic, I did name this episode on YouTube. Here's why Tennessee still has things to play for. And they do. As kind of black pilled as I am on the Florida game, if that's what you want to say, um, they do still have things to play for. And it's not just the bowl game. I mean, the bowl game, hey, that would be great if you could go 9-3 and make it to a Florida bowl game. Cool. I mean that would be great. It's stuff that Butch Jones was able to do, but still, it would be fun. But I think it really lies more in the historical significance of this game, being able to knock Vandy off of their playoff pedestal, unless Kentucky does it first. I guess we'll see this weekend. But there is something to play for. I genuinely, as unoptimistic as I probably am at the moment, I think this team really does. If they can bow up and play with some pride, there's something to play for here.
Yeah, for sure. If you can get to 10 wins, I mean 9 wins in the regular season, 10 wins with a bowl game win, and like you said, who knows what the bowl game would look like. We'd see what the situation would be when Tennessee gets there, depending on who plays, who opts out, who they're playing, that whole deal. You just kind of never know. It's game to game. Yeah, I think going, 9-3 in the regular season. I mean, that's what Ole Miss was at last season. I know we've referenced this before, but Lane Kiffin is. I mean, if you've been on social media today, especially in the last few hours, it's all Lane Kiffin. Everything Lane Kiffin. Even with James Franklin now being hired by Virginia Tech, the focus is still on Lane Kiffin. Apparently, his family toured Baton Rouge today and was confirmed that that actually happened, which is a very college football coaching search thing to happen. uh, but anyway, my point is that all eyes are on Kiffin. He's the most wanted coach in college football right now. LSU, Florida. I mean, I think some NFL teams want him. We've heard the Titans connected to him last week, the Giants, the Dolphins, who have a coach right now. We'll see what Lane Kiffin does, but he was, I mean, they lost to Kentucky last year. They lost to Florida, last year. They blew their chance to reach the playoff. It was a very similar season in a lot of ways to what Tennessee's had this year. So I think you're going to have really good coaches that have some seasons like this where just the roster isn't quite where it needs to be. You don't quite have the right, star player, maybe at quarterback or running back or whatever the situation. You got to have the right combination of players. So I think you put up years like this. It's a solid year. You come up short of where you want to get to, but I think as long as you're on the cusp of the playoff year to year, you're still in that conversation where it's not going to hurt you in recruiting. You still going to get good transfer players because they know you're right there, like I said, on the cusp of making the playoffs. So I think these games are really important. I think you win these two games, you got a lot of momentum going into the offseason. You lose these two games, you lose one of these two games, and we're not hollering fire Heupel in the offseason. We've been through that, right? But the noise will get loud. There'll be some conversations. There'll be some changes that Josh Heupel has to make moving forward to fix some of the problems that we've seen from this team this season. But I just think it's a much more enjoyable offseason for Josh Heupel and his staff and the roster if you can win these two games.
Much more. I think that might be an understatement.
Yeah.
Because on top of what I said, you're just your pride, a Florida Bowl game, knocking Vandy off of their playoff run, winning in the Swamp for the first time in 20 years. The biggest thing to me right now is that if you don't win both of these games, basically no matter what, if you split them, if you just go 1-1, and it almost doesn't matter which one, if you split them, it's going to be a little ugly where people are really going to question you if you split these two games. And if you lose both, it's going to be I don't even want to think about it. It's a similar feeling to what I had with and I let me be 100% clear, given the things that have happened in the last couple of weeks with our friend Jonathan Crompton. In no way is this a comparison. I'm saying
just so you know, it doesn't matter what you qualify this statement with; it will be used against you by somebody.
200%. But the feelings remind me of the 2020 season with Pruitt right before the Kentucky game, where we had felt that like things were coming down the pike with Pruitt, and we kind of said he should win this game, but if he doesn't, it's going to be bad. And ultimately, not only did he lose, he lost by like 30. And so that's just the feeling I have right now. Again, Heupel is so crazily better than Jeremy Pruitt could ever dream of being. But it is a similar feeling of just you should win both these games, but if you don't, it's gonna get rough out here. It's gonna get for him, for us on this show, the conversations that we end up having to have, and all the things that come with people questioning your football coach. That's gonna come down the pike. Now it'll be less as long as you beat Vandy. Do you agree there? If you beat Florida in the Swamp first time in 20 years, this is a genuine accomplishment. You'll be on a little bit of a high for a week. But if you follow that up by losing to Vandy, that's completely null and void. But you could lose to Florida. You've done that like 50 times in a row now in the Swamp. and then beat Vandy, and it'll be just kind of a mediocre, wow, we should have done better than that kind of feeling. I do. Do you agree with that, Zach?
Yeah, I do. I was going to chime in and say that I do think that losing to Florida would be a little bit easier to swallow than losing to Vanderbilt, just because, like you said, the history there with Florida. Plus, this Florida team's played hard, right? Like we saw the way they didn't show up against Kentucky. They really showed up against Ole Miss, and I don't know if that's because of everything that was going on with the Lane Kiffin talk and that whole storyline. I don't know if honestly, I don't even know if the players care, to be honest, in this new era of college football where you got so many people moving from school to school each year. They may not even know where they're going to be next season, but I think one, it depends on how these two games go, right? Like you can't get blown out and lose either game. I think if you play well and the other team just plays really well too and makes the plays, that's a little easier to handle than just not showing up. I think if you don't show up and you have just crazy mental mistakes and just some obvious, it's like the team's melted in, right? Like if we watch this game and we think Tennessee's melted in, that they're not, playing like these are rivalry games that mean a lot to them, then there will be more concern, I think, than if you just come up short and you do something like the Georgia game where you missed the kick and maybe you made some decisions that didn't go your way. That's tough, but you played with them, right? Like you're a good team. I think there's something that to be said for playing well in these games. It's not say it's a moral victory type deal. Like you got to go. You should be better than both these teams. You have better rosters than both of these teams. You should go win these games. I think this whole conversation, though, where it's difficult for me is just the state of college football at this point, because what we've seen from Tennessee this year is one, let's not forget that they have 7 wins right now. They could very easily be five and five right now. I mean, they could have easily lost to Mississippi State and Arkansas.
Yeah.
So it's been a weird season. Just as easily as they could be 8-2 or even 9-1, if you want to make an argument for the Alabama or Oklahoma game, it could go the opposite direction. And the reason we've seen them lose these games is when they've made mistakes where they look like a team that just doesn't have enough reps together. And it's hard for me to use that as an excuse for the entire season, because so many college programs are dealing with that same exact deal because of the transfer portal and these rosters, how much they change from year to year. So I think there is some little bit of roster magic you've got to have there to have a special season where you just get the group of players that fit together. And I don't think Tennessee has that this season
No.
completely. And I think that, I mean, you've got the Nico situation with the quarterback. A lot of players were close to Nico. A lot. You heard Miles Kitselman and when spring practice, when the spring game wrapped up, the comments he made about Nico were pretty strong. Clearly there was some split opinions on the roster about the Nico situation. You got the Boo Carter situation where a lot of people didn't even want him on the team coming into the season. Some players, they kept him on the team and it didn't go well. And we can get into Heupel's decision on all that and whether that was the right decision, wrong decision, or how we can look at that decision in retrospect. But clearly there was players on the roster that probably weren't happy with that decision, some that were happy with the decision. I just don't think everybody's on the same page. And I don't think, and it's not an indictment on Josh Heupel. I think sometimes you just have a roster that just doesn't quite mesh the right way. And I think they're even more likely to have that in this era of the sport, because you're just throwing these guys on rosters where sometimes you really don't get to know these players. And Tennessee's had some good luck with that. I mean, they've had Colton Hood, who's been a good fit, and Jermon McCoy. You've also had some guys that really weren't great fits, but like Jawan Mitchell that came in from Texas that year that just didn't work out. I mean, so that's a risk that every, that's something that every program has to overcome. So I don't want to say that it's something that's unique to Tennessee, because it's not, but I do think it's something you have to consider in the way some of these teams perform year to year.
It is just such a weird era right now with the sport. To some of your point there, like I was talking to my mother-in-law this week, and she just said, I just don't care anymore. I mean, we missed the playoff. It's just like I just don't think that I care for the rest of the season. It's actually pretty funny. She's a bit of a transplant. They've only lived here for I don't know, probably closing in on what 12ish years or something. So not that new, but not a lifer Tennessee fan. And she was saying something like I think I'm just getting tired of being a Tennessee fan where we can't win the big games. And I'm like, Oh, you get used to it, you know.
Yeah.
you're, you're new around here. It's okay. Because it and some of this complaining, I mean, it does feel like I was young, but I remember distinctly. I mean, I was 18, but I remember distinctly at the end of the Fulmer era, just we were like, no, we win 10 games around here, Phil. That's what we do. And Heupel, because of his own doing, has kind of gotten it back to that point. And now the playoff compounds that much more. Back then, it was kind of like the SEC championship game, being a BCS contention was some of what you wanted to see. But now, I mean, as much as Eli Drinkowitz doesn't want it to be the case, it's playoff or bust. It is.
Yeah.
Essentially, is the season a failure? No, it's definitely not. But to kind of the common fan, like my mother-in-law potentially, it's like exponentially less interesting when that's not in the mix anymore. And it's tough, and it's just so different, and so much with the roster and NIL and the transfer portal. And it's a giant can of worms. I completely agree with you. This roster just hasn't come together. There's been unfortunate stuff like Jermon McCoy, Ricky Gibson getting hurt, and all of those things. I mean, I think that defense, you at least win the Georgia game if those guys play. I don't know if there were more games than that one, but that one was so razor's edge. I think you do. Uh, and that would have been something, as you were saying. This game would have had that much more pressure on it because it would have been for the playoff. Going to the swamp to win, and yeah, it's just strange. Everything just feels so weird
It,
right now.
yeah, it's to me, it's the hardest Tennessee team to evaluate ever. And
It's odd.
last season was even difficult, even though they made the playoff, just because it was such a weird year with the offense. And but this season it really is a hard team to evaluate because the depth isn't there like you need it. You've had so many injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to future NFL players, future NFL first round draft picks, probably in Jermon McCoy's case at least. And then you lost, like we said, you lost your quarterback. You brought in a quarterback who, let's be honest, is good at, like, I like Joey Aguilar. I like what he's about. I love the attitude that he plays with, just the personality he brings to this roster. I think, given the situation with what happened, it might have been the best case scenario, the way that he fit in seamlessly with this team and has played pretty well. But I think you've seen his limitations, right? Especially over these last few games. You've seen some throws that were just kind of like, what are you doing? Why are you taking that shot there when you had the underneath stuff here? Or, why aren't you running the ball? Even Josh Heupel said that after the Oklahoma game. It's like we had times where we had the runs there and we're throwing it, we're throwing perimeter screens for some reason on the RPOs. So there's limitations there with the quarterback that I think have held this team back. As good as he's played too.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to talk bad about Aguilar at all. It's an impossible situation he was thrown into. It's an impossible situation for the whole program, really. But considering all the question marks we had about this offense coming into the season and the wide receivers and the way they were questioned by folks in the media, and Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley and Chris Brazzell are all having fantastic years, especially Brazzell. And Staley's really taking another step. That doesn't happen without Aguilar back there distributing the football to them. So he has played well, but I don't think he's played at a national championship level. I think anybody that objectively has watched him play, especially over these last few weeks, I mean, maybe that Georgia game, that's probably the best game he played for Tennessee was that Georgia game. And my theory is that as the season has gone on, he's probably felt a little bit of the pressure of like, oh hell, I am at the SEC and at Tennessee right now, and we have a chance to make the playoff, right? Like that Oklahoma game was an elimination game. He'd never been in anything like that before. Joey had never been in a game that big. I mean, he spent this time at Appalachian State and briefly at UCLA. That's a lot. And I don't care how much of a competitor you are. When you get thrown into that for the first time, it's only natural to have, you're going to press a little bit. And I think we've seen that from Joey a bit. So all of that stuff combined has just, for me, I've laid off being like too mad at Heupel. There are certainly things that have to be better. The time management stuff, some of the game day coaching issues. I've been on record as saying I think he needs to give up play calling. I don't know to who because I'm not in that room, but I think he's got too much on his plate. But that stuff aside, there's just been so much else that's happened with this team going into this season that some of the expectations I think that we put on this team, even to go 9-3, may not have been, I don't want to say fair necessarily, but they just might not have been realistic. And maybe they were. I don't know, because you know, I know you can make the argument the other way that this team is a few plays away from maybe being undefeated if they don't have those catastrophic errors in the Alabama and Oklahoma games. But like I said earlier, you're also a couple plays away from losing to Mississippi State and Arkansas. So it's just, I just don't think this team had what it takes this year to get to the playoff, and I think that has to be okay year to year. Now, if you get a pattern of that and you're never in contention, or you keep having the same mistakes year after year after year, which I know we're into some of that with Heupel and some of the road stuff. We've talked about it a lot, and that stuff does have to get fixed moving forward. They're not going to win a national championship until they can win big games on the road. There's just no way around that. You have to win those games to be a championship program, so he has to figure that out. But I don't know. There's just so much around this team this season that going to the playoff would have been great, but it probably would have been quite a bit of overachieving if that would have happened.
I completely agree with all that. And it was just too good to be true with Joey. I mean, after that Georgia game where we just went, is this guy really 4 touchdowns against Georgia? This is so crazy. And it was just too good to be true. I think you're exactly right. He's felt the pressure, and sort of his 100% true nature has showed, and that he does have limitations, and that's tough. And that, more to the point of just this roster isn't elite, and that's tough. Not the end of the world, and it just leaves you in this odd spot. I do want to hit some of the comments here before I make this next point, but going all the way back, Chad Morris on Twitter, he says they're a way for Tennessee to squeeze into the playoffs. Statistically speaking, yes. Realistically speaking, no, I don't think. I mean, it would
No.
have to be supreme chaos. Just
Yeah, and
everything.
I don't think Tennessee. Look, you're gonna have to have teams in front of them that go from 2 losses to 4 losses in several circumstances, I believe. Because if Tennessee is tied with some of these teams at 3 losses, they're not going to get the nod over those teams, because Tennessee, like it or not, they don't have a signature win. They just don't.
No.
They haven't. You know, they needed to beat Georgia to have that on their resume. That's kind of what that's what saved them last season. Look, nobody was arguing for Tennessee last year, really. Like, they didn't really want to put Tennessee in the playoff, but they had to at 10-2 because they beat Alabama, and because Alabama with 3 losses. We remember all the discourse around Alabama and how they deserved to be in, but you couldn't put them in over Tennessee. So Tennessee kind of got that spot, you know, begrudgingly by the committee, it felt like, last season. So I would not anticipate a 3-loss Tennessee making it over another 3-loss SEC team.
The 3-loss team that would make it, when I think about it, I mean, I'm not thinking through every single scenario that could really happen, but it would be Texas, I think, because if they
Or
have 3
Alabama.
losses, or that's true, or Alabama, if they lose another game, but
Which
if
they
they
have
lose
Auburn
at Auburn,
at Jordan Hare, yeah.
and they would have a win over Georgia. Texas, in a similar way, they would have a win against Texas A&M, who's going to be most likely undefeated going into that game. Um, and so, yeah, either of those would be way before you. Like, it would just have to be chaos in a way that you essentially never see in college football, and that's tough. Austin Stanley in the comments, he says, "I disagree. Losing either of these is going to make it ugly." That's probably true, because you already have the fans coming out of the woodwork. And let me be clear, to a certain extent, I agree with these folks. I'm not as extreme, but there are folks just saying Heupel has shown his flaws. And some of those folks are saying, get this guy out the door. I'm not saying that, but he has shown his flaws and his shortcomings. And I think this week is really a gut check for him as a coach, because it's really saying, this is as much as Florida can suck. This
Yeah.
is as bad as they're going to get. Period. They're always going to have good talent because it's Florida. They're always going to have a decent coach because it's Florida, and they may end up getting a really good coach that's better than you. And so you got to at least beat them now. And if you come in still unfocused, playing sloppy, looks like the effort is lacking, all of these things. Heupel looks like he just is overwhelmed. I mean, it's just gonna add in a big way to that narrative. This this Florida game I mean, it's an inexcusable loss. It just would be. It just would be. I know that they played Ole Miss tough, and everybody's been saying it. It's still, it doesn't matter. They don't have a bowl game to play for. They don't have a coach. They got run out of town by Kentucky. This is an inexcusable loss. I mean, Kenneth in the comments, he said, based on Eiffel's history on the road, it's 7:30, as well as at the Swamp. I am not betting on UT. And he said, I I didn't confirm this, but he says we've only won in the Swamp 3 times since the 1970s.
That's true, because when they
Oh,
won in 2001, it was the first time they had won there since Philip Fulmer was a player, and I guess 1971. So then 01, 03, and that's
that's
it,
ridiculous.
right? Yeah. So really just
Yeah.
twice, I guess, since the 70s.
I mean, come on. Greg also mentions is oh crap, I went right past it. He mentions that the OC is too predictable. And that kind of goes to that point of like
Tennessee.
yes, he says, and also ROC is too predictable, I feel, Greg, in the comments off Facebook. And I mean that goes to that same point of Heupel kind of being overwhelmed, having too much on his plate. He's the play caller, we know, even though Hosley is your OC.
Well, and on that, I mean, we know, just to clarify this, because I think there's always been a lot of confusion on this. Alex Dolish has said he called the plays that Heupel handed over play calling to him in 21 and 22. And Chris Load reported that when Joey Hosley went to offensive coordinator, Josh Heupel retained those play calling duties. And Adam Sparks was on a guest on a radio show from the Knoxville News Sentinel, who probably got the soundbite of the month from Josh Heupel today at his Monday press conference about Boo Carter and the injury report. But we'll touch on Boo here in a minute, I'm sure. But Sparks had noticed, like, on game days, you can tell that Heupel's down there and he's the one calling plays in between, because there's a lot. I mean, he's the one doing all the talking in between plays. And I think that predictable play calling, I think the play calling has been better this season. I think there's some things execution wise that just hasn't worked out. Some missed assignments and stuff that's just blown up plays that otherwise would have worked, or the quarterback not seeing the play where the play should go. The one thing with play calling that I've consistently feel like I've seen this season is when Tennessee gets a first down, when they get that momentum going and they go into their tempo, it feels like that first down play more often than not. And I haven't went back and looked, like, broke this out play by play. But just watching the games, you get that feeling of, like, every time they get a first down and they start moving quick, that first down play is a run, like a fast run. They snap it, they run it, it goes for a yard, and all of a sudden you're in 2nd and 9, and the tempo that was your weapon has now kind of worked against you in that aspect. So not getting into good first down plays, I feel like has been a problem at times. And I feel like that's part of Heupel trying to juggle calling plays and managing the game. Because there's a lot to managing the game, right? Than just calling plays. And that's why so many coaches give up those play calling duties. So I do think there are ways the play calling can be more efficient for sure moving forward.
Yeah, we haven't even we mentioned it in passing, but Jeff says, I'm glad Boo is gone. Anxious to see what hype can get done in the portal. And to me, that's the biggest thing with Heupel. Talking about him in a macro sense, I think he was lax in the portal this offseason, and it's one of the reasons you have a mediocre roster. That mediocre might be a little strong, but a non-elite roster. And
too many holes. You got some elite players, but there's just too many places where you got holes.
Exactly. And the whole Boo Carter situation, I mean, what a clown show. And hindsight is 2020 as far as that goes, where you can go, well, you should have booted him off the team back in July, and that would have been the right move. But you know what we would have been doing right now is sitting around going, our DBs stink, and Boo Carter's over in Colorado making plays, and that's exactly what we would have said.
Yeah,
so
I mean, we've done it with Jacoby Thomas, who left for Miami and has had a good year down there. Miami had a pick six this past weekend. You're exactly right. That is what we would have been doing. So I think Heupel, I think he was kind of in an impossible situation. Yeah, in retrospect, probably should have just kicked him off the team, but there would have been noise. We would have been sitting here right now saying like, how could you have not given that guy another chance? Look how bad the secondary is when, not knowing that clearly it wouldn't have made a difference bringing him back because he just hasn't played well at all this season. But, I think there's an interesting thing there with the portal and this Boo Carter conversation. Heupel, I do think he needs to be more aggressive in the portal because you have to fill these holes year to year, especially when players leave and you don't have depth. You've got to go get the best players. Those are the teams that are going to win the championship. The best players that buy into the coach that they go to, right? Like that's who's going to win the national championship. The most talented team that's completely bought into their program. I think Heupel's scared to death of bringing in bad culture guys. That seems to be something that he is, which
Yes.
I get. I understand that, right? I do get it because that is important. If you're not like Boo Carter's immensely talented, incredibly talented. He's a Sunday NFL player if his head's in the right place. He was never going to benefit you this season unless he bought in, unless he was all in with his and was all in and committed to being the best teammate possible, putting himself aside for the greater good of the team. That's what everybody's got to do to win a championship. You've all got to be pulling in the same direction. It's corny, it's cliche, but it's the only way. Those are the team. That's the last team standing, is the team that has a roster full of those guys. So I think the ironic part is that Heupel is so scared of bringing in those guys, but then he let that sit on his roster for 2 months. And Boo Carter, I don't know what kind of impact that had on everybody, right? Like we've already talked about, clearly some things just aren't completely right with this roster. And I don't mean that to sound ominous or like there's issues behind the scenes that need to be looked into. It's just this group hasn't come together the exact right way. And I think you do have to wonder how much the Boo Carter thing played into that, because I don't think everybody was aligned with the decision that was made. So there's some little inconsistency there from Heupel and his philosophy of going to the portal and getting guys not knowing if they're going to be a good culture fit or not, and then keeping it on your roster because he's talented. Because look, if Boo Carter wasn't talented the way if he wasn't an elite player, if he wasn't on the all SEC freshman team last season, I don't think he gets the second chance. Right or wrong, I don't think he gets that same second chance. So Heupel's got to figure out his philosophy there, because you got to take some chances. And I think on one hand, maybe taking the chance with Boo Carter was the right thing to do, maybe just because of the talent.
Yeah.
If you're going to have this conversation about going and getting guys from the portal, you're going to be taking similar chances because you just don't know what you're getting. A lot of times when people are transferring, it is because things didn't work out with their other program for whatever reason. So it's a difficult conversation. I don't think there's an easy answer there, but Heupel's got to be better at the portal. One way or the other, he just has to be better at evaluating players and getting the best talent possible on this team.
I just continue to have more and more of a feeling, and I hope it's wrong. I really, really hope it's wrong. I hope Heupel during this off season looks in the mirror and fires some of his friends and makes some actual changes in his processes and hires a play caller on offense. I hope he does all of that. I just continue to get more and more of a feeling of this guy might be an OC who's just playing head coach more than he's true long-term elite head coach material. And that's I hate that. But that's the way it is with some guys. I mean, some you hear it, you really hear it with Tim Banks. Which, first of all, he's not even a very good defensive coordinator, so he doesn't have that thing as hat.
And he doesn't have a great reputation as a recruiter either.
Exactly.
I mean, and
I was gonna say it's a known thing that he doesn't really recruit. So some of those, that's just some guy. Some guys don't like to do it. It's an absolute grind. It sucks. The recruiting. I've watched interviews with Tony Vitello after him leaving, and he's brought up in multiple of them that the recruiting piece sucked. And I mean, he was the best dude in the game doing it. And so you know that it must stink in football, especially with how many more players there are on a football roster. So I just continue to get, it's just a hankering in the back of my head, just going, oh, come on, man. Like, make these changes. Do something.
Yeah, I mean, it might be. I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, we we're gonna find out one way or the other in the next couple of years if he's got what it takes to take Tennessee over the hump and win a championship or not. I mean, we're going to find that out for sure, one way or the other. We just need time. But there are guys like that, and look, I don't. I'm the type that, and I know a lot of people have different theories on this, and it's not the same. Every situation is completely different. But I don't subscribe to the idea of like if you're a great coordinator, you're going to be a great head coach. I don't think those two things really go hand in hand. I think you can be a bad coordinator and a good head coach. I think you can be a good head coach and not a good coordinator. I mean, Mike Vrabel doing great. The Patriots. He was a terrible DC with the Houston Texans before the Titans hired him. I mean, that stuff happens all the time. Dan Campbell has the Lions in the best place they've been in decades. He was never a coordinator. John Harbaugh at the Baltimore Ravens. Dabo at Clemson. I mean, there's a ton of guys that haven't been coordinators that have been good head coaches. I don't think the play calling skill set is necessary to be a good head coach. I think you got to be that good CEO type of guy. I mean, we saw with Jeremy Pruitt, terrible CEO, great defensive play caller. Sometimes that's just the way it works out. You can be both. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't be, and maybe Hypo will be. I think me and you both hope that he proves to be and can answer some of these questions, but I don't think it's a guarantee. And that's not me sitting here questioning the guy. That's just me saying, hey, let's see where it goes from here, because that's really all we can do. We have the information that we have on him. We know his shortcomings. We've seen them in action. Let's see where it goes from here.
It's all we can really do. And on that note, let's predict this Florida game. I wish there was more to talk about this week that's not just us ruminating over what kind of doom is coming.
Well, I think that we didn't really talk about the New Mexico State game. Like the energy
No.
wasn't quite there. You win 42-9. Heupel said after the game there were some practices where they didn't really have an edge. Joey Aguilar said he took some of the blame for that and said he wasn't at his best in practice. And I don't think that's a big red flag. I think that was a weird week because you lost that game to Oklahoma. Your playoff hopes are pretty much done at that point. So then you're kind of this conversation that we've had here in the comments and with people like, how do you view the season now? The playoffs not on the table. What do you have to play for? You go into a bye week and then you come out of that bye week with a game against a New Mexico State, which is probably a good thing. Because I think if you'd have played a conference opponent, that game probably wouldn't have went very well for Tennessee. I think you just kind of had to get out of that fog from the Oklahoma game and get into this Florida week where maybe the energy the energy should be fine. If you can't get up for Florida, then you kind of got to look at it as a one-game season at this point. It's a rivalry game. Regardless of what it means for the rest of your season, you want to go win this game because it's Florida and it means something. You want to be the Tennessee team that won in the swamp. So the energy should be there. There's zero excuses to not have a good week of energy this week. But I do think the fan base, the players, I think everybody kind of felt that these past 2 weeks coming out of that Oklahoma game where it was just kind of like, now what? And then you didn't have a game. And you got to play a cupcake. It was just a weird vibe, I think, these first 2 weeks in November after that Oklahoma game.
Well, they better get up for it because Florida has dudes. Now, how checked out those dudes will be, it's a little up in the air because they phoned it all the way in against Kentucky, lost by 31, and then nearly beat Ole Miss at Ole Miss. And DJ Lagway kind of played out of his mind for stretches in that game. I think he was also some of the reason why Florida lost, but they have guys. Jaden Baugh, very good running back. Their best wide receiver, the young kid, is Wilson, is out for the rest of the season. So I would say for Tennessee, at least there's that. At least he's not playing. But defensively, I mean, Florida has guys. I think you've seen some of them essentially opt out. They got a real long injury list. And are some of those injuries Boo Carter style, I'm getting ready for the transfer portal type of injuries? Don't know. And will more of those come by Wednesday night? I think that's a question. But the fact is this: if Florida brings it all the way, and it's the first home game that they played in a month, Uh, I mean, it's 7:30 in the swamp. It's a nightmare scenario for Tennessee. Let's call it what it is. It's a nightmare scenario. Not only that, you got thinking it's Chris Fowler on the call, old Trailer Park Frenzy, and it's just. And how did that even happen? How was a week this late in the season? How was a week this light? Where this game between a team with barely any playoff hopes at all
Yeah,
and a
7 loss team,
a
7 losses.
3-win Florida team, how is this the top
Seven
billing?
loss Florida is hosting a primetime game when Ole Miss couldn't get a primetime game for like 2 seasons. Kiffin was complaining
Ugh.
every Monday about it. It is bizarre, but not at all surprising if you're a Tennessee fan.
Yeah, and I think I agree with Jeff on YouTube. He says the game comes down to playing clean and
Mhm.
turnovers. It's been the same story throughout the whole season. 200% clean game. And it's what I was saying earlier. This is kind of a gut check for Heupel and getting these guys ready. Can they come in focused, play a clean game, really look motivated, look like they want to be there? Because I just some of these games you've been like, is everybody's head in the game? What exactly is going on here? Um, and so that, but just yeah, the big one I'm looking out for is the sloppy play because like Kenneth says right below Jeff, if not now, when? When?
Yeah.
Never your answer. If not now, when? Unfortunately, 2029 is your next chance. So it's a volatile situation. It scares the absolute crap out of me. But I don't know. You think Tennessee can do it, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, of course they can. I mean, of course they can. They almost beat Georgia, and you just can't have these moments like you had against Alabama and Oklahoma, where literally just two catastrophic plays changed the outcome of those games. And look, Tennessee's been on the other side of that too. We've referenced the Mississippi State game. That game, Mississippi State probably wins that game if not for the strip sack fumble that's returned for a touchdown. So you've been on both sides of it. You understand what those plays mean to a game and how they can affect the outcome. So you've got to eliminate those plays, and like they haven't done that this season. They just haven't done that in these big games. I mean, against Georgia, you made a lot of plays, but then I don't know, your coach maybe put you in a situation that wasn't great at the end, and you didn't execute some of the plays that were called. You miss a field goal. I mean, you still brought that loss was still on you, Tennessee. Like you lost that game. Georgia didn't win it. In this Alabama and Oklahoma games, I mean those are plays that just in those critical moments like that, you can make the game 2 points at halftime against Bama, and you have that happen. And it was because it started with the coach, from the time management aspect and backing yourself into a corner where you had no other option but to run a play like that where you're running to one side, so you have an opportunity to throw the ball away, and it's just you shorten the field. It was a bad play. It was a bad situation. The Oklahoma game, you can go up 14-0, take control of that game, and you have a freshman who you're only having to play because of the current state of college football, because you're paying him so much, you have to play him. And the other guy that probably would have started at right tackle transferred to Colorado because you got to pay the true freshman to play, and he wants to go get paid somewhere. So, that loses you that game. You can't have those moments. They haven't shown me that they can play a game of this magnitude with this team and not have those moments. So, I don't I don't think based on what I've seen this season that I can pick Tennessee to win this game. I don't feel like I can. I don't know. Is that fair? I mean, I don't feel like I can.
I think it's completely fair. Here. Let's just go ahead and predict the game. We're closing out on 45 minutes already. I can go first. Um, you you're better than Florida. You have the better coach, the better roster, the better situation. Um, but it is a nightmare scenario as we were talking about. And I want to believe so badly because it's in there. A win over Florida in the swamp. Frankly, the possibility of Tennessee blowing these guys off the field is real. I think. I mean, if Kentucky can do it, you beat Kentucky by a bunch of touchdowns. So why couldn't you do that to Florida?
I don't know. There's been a lot of years Kentucky's won in the swamp too with Mark Stoops, and Tennessee hasn't. So
How
it's
is
so
how
weird. It's so weird.
Georgia can't beat Alabama, Florida can't beat Kentucky, and Tennessee can't beat Florida? I mean, you try to explain it, and it's supernatural. That's what it is. It's supernatural. That's what I chalk it up to with this game. Um, I want to believe really badly, and I hope Joey gets his head screwed on straight fully and has the game of his life. I mean, how cathartic would it be to just lay the hammer down on these guys in the final meeting in the swamp till 2029? Oh, it would be so great, and it's absolutely there. You you pounded the team that whipped these guys. So, with all that said, I still have my rule. I just do. You don't win in the swamp until you do. I 2 years ago, I went off the reservation and actually chose Tennessee to win in the swamp, and it was a complete disaster. Joe Milton and the whole thing. I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, a game I don't like thinking about. And so I'm going back. I'm gonna refer back, and I'm gonna say that they're gonna blow it. And then you better be Vandy. I think they will as of this moment. But I'll believe it when I see it. Unfortunately, that's what I'll say. And I think it's gonna be high scoring. I think Tennessee's defense is gonna give up points to DJ Lagway, just like Ole Miss did. I'll go third 31-24, 31-27, Florida. Very close. We will be saying after the game, you should have won. Why didn't we? We had a lead in the fourth quarter. We blew it. Like, it'll be like that, I think. And it'll be really annoying. And that's going to suck. But I'll believe it when I see it. That's it. How you feel about it, Zach?
Yeah, I think Kyle makes a good point. Heupel can make everyone forget about the rest of the season. You win this game.
Yeah.
Go in, beat Vandy. And suddenly it's like, yeah, it sucks that Tennessee didn't beat Georgia and lost Oklahoma. But it's still a season you look back on fondly. You know, you beat Florida in the swamp. You beat Mississippi State on the road. I mean, I don't take any SEC road win for granted. You beat Arkansas for the first time since, I don't know, the mid 2000s. I know they don't play that often, but still, that's the first time you beat that team in a long time. It means something.
Yep.
So it can still be a season you look back on fondly. And I'm like you know, Tennessee can do it. Like, they have the guys to do it. I mean, Chris Brazzell can take over a game. Does the offensive line play better? You know, can they run the ball? They got to be able to do those two things. Can your defense hold up? Can they keep, you know, if you get Florida in 3rd and longs, can you get off the field? Can you not give up, you know, a DJ Ladway scramble or him, you know, running around throwing the ball 20 yards down the field for a back-breaking first down? You've got to do those things. You got to protect the football. I'm a little concerned about how, you know, the frequency of the turnovers now with Joey and just some of the interceptions. And I know they're not all his fault, but a ball that's a little off target, you know, ends up being an interception, or you don't see the defense the right way. It doesn't matter the reason. They just can't happen. I don't really care whose fault it is. You got to take care of the football. You got to catch the football. You got to throw good passes. But no, I don't know. I haven't seen them do it. Like I said earlier, I haven't seen them do it this season, so I can't pick Tennessee to win this game. I just can't. I know Florida's record is what it is, but I think this is one of those games. It's kind of like Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, you know, Duke, UNC in basketball, whatever rivalry you want to throw out there. The records kind of go out the window when these two teams get together, especially in Gainesville. So I don't think Florida's gonna look like a 7-loss team. I think they know the history. I think they'll be up for this game, and I think they'll have the advantage when it comes to the mindset. I think it's easier when you're on that side of it, and when you're on the other side, even though these Tennessee players haven't really been part of this streak, most of these guys, a lot of these players weren't even, you know, on the team that lost in the swamp 2 years ago. They still know the history too, and they're going to feel the pressure of ending this streak. So I think it'll be close, but I got like Florida, 27-23, something like that.
We're so weak, Zach. We just can't do it.
I mean, I've picked Tennessee to win against Florida plenty of times over the years. I've been doing this for a long time now, and I don't know if I've ever picked this game correctly. So maybe it's a good thing I'm picking Florida.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's that. Kyle in the comments says Tennessee 38-34. Let's go and take it. He says Lagway will throw a couple interceptions. I hope so. If you're going to win it, I think that's something that's going to have to happen. Turnovers for sure. And because it will be really great and something to hang your hat on, even in a season where you missed the playoffs. If you can win this, Chris says we start hot, make the crowd leave by half, and win 45-20. It's a real possibility.
Yeah.
It's out there. Does that reality exist? Yes. Will I believe it with my own two eyes when I witness it? Also, yes. I mean, that's what I hope happens. Jason,
Oh yeah,
to the same point.
That'd be great.
Jason says, yeah, I mean, it'd be incredible. Jason says 31-10 Vols. Jeff says 38-30. And yeah.
I do think one thing working in Tennessee's favor this week is the fact that you had that bye week, and then you get back on the field against New Mexico State, so you should be fairly healthy. Some of the guys that were banged up, nobody's gonna be 100% healthy this time of year, but you should be healthier. Guys like Arian Carter and some of those guys that set out the New Mexico State game and have been, Colton Hood, all those guys have been playing through some injuries. So I think that helps you. Whereas Florida, had to play a hard fought game against Ole Miss last week. They should be a little bit more banged up than Tennessee is. And again, the state of their team, who knows, who plays in this game and who doesn't. Still, man, it's just this game. It's Florida. It's the swamp. It's at night. Yeah, it's Tom Petty. It's all those things. It's just you just hate it. You just hate it. Yeah, I know not every Tennessee fans agrees with this, but I'm looking forward to not having to play Florida every single year. It's not that Tennessee can't beat them. I just get freaking tired of this game. It's awesome when you beat them, but over the past, since high school. I mean, I've seen them since I've left high school. I've seen them beat Florida 4 times, and that's over 2 decades ago. So it's time to end that and to make this not a thing anymore. And that goes back to kind of the Heupel discussion too. You think about all these things and some of the things he needs to be better at, and some of the flaws that we've seen. He's still beat Alabama twice in the last 4 years. He's beat Florida twice in the last 4 years. So it's been a long time since Tennessee's had a coach that's done that.
Yeah. Hopefully he can snag one more. I was 12 the last time we won in the swamp. 12. I'd like to
That's
see
a long
that.
time ago, man. Before iPhones, before Facebook. Said that Michael Jordan had retired the 3rd time that year. I mean, that's a long time ago.
YouTube was still 2 years off in 2003. God. Oh, boy. All right. That's a show. We'll see what happens. Go watch the Tennessee basketball game, 8:30 tonight. It's not till 8:30. So that building is going to be empty. 8:30 on a school night to go watch Tennessee play Rice. But yeah, it's going to be another snoozer to let them get their act together before Las Vegas. So, that's it though. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan, thank you to everybody who tuned in and watched, including Austin Stanley in the comments. I see him. We could not do it with all the folks that tune in and comment. You all are the best. Keep this thing afloat, and yeah, that's it. I don't know. Say your prayers.
Keep this thing afloat. that's where we're at.
Let's just hope something.
Late November. We're just trying to keep it going.
All right, that is it. Thanks again to everybody for watching. We will talk to y'all next week.
See you guys later.